Okay, I don't know if my internet is going to let me do this morning because I was talking and it flubbed out on me. So we've had an awful lot of wind here, so there could be some issues with the place that we get it from, which is about an hour and a half away from here. But when you live in Podunk, that's about the best you can get. But of course, sometimes it's this time of year. I think satellite feeds get wonky. So, I was going to see if it'll let my other device connect. And so, I was going to see if it'll try to get the sound cut down on that. Okay, hey Miss Paula, if this thing wigs out on me, I'll just have to record this and upload it. But hopefully this time it will work. Okay, what I'm going to show y'all is a take on a pocket card that we used to make years ago, but we actually did them as tags more than standalone pocket page, like inserts for journals and things like that. But I tweaked what I could remember of what we used to do and came up with a way to, this is the basis of the card. This is just my 3 pattern paper layering elements. And this shape is what we're going to be left with after we cut some things away in order to create the card or the pockets. And then when I show you just a little bit more about it, you'll understand how it all works and how it can actually have pockets on the back side, even though there was no more cardstock to fold up there. So, first thing I want to do is show you how you get to this point. And you're going to score a sheet of cardstock, and this works great even for 65-pound stock because you have a little less resistance, but most of what I make is with the 110 pounds, so I just fight it and go for it. But you're going to score it down the middle at 4 1/4 inches on your 8 1/2 inch side, then turn it in your scoreboard and score it at half at 5 1/2 inches. And like always, when I put my paper in my scoreboard, I score it, flip it around and score it so that I don't have that tiny little bit of width difference that drives me nuts. Then what you're going to do is these 3 sections you want to keep intact. Just this lower left corner, looking at it from the back side. When I say back side, you want to see your humped score lines. So when you cut this section off, you want to make sure that the humped line from this section and from this section are both on the piece that you cut off. That's very important so that when these pieces, this one's going to fold over first, this one's going to fold over last, you're not going to have any resistance at either one of these folds. Because when this folds over, you'll notice it's going to be inside the humped line of your bottom section that's going to fold up. Then when you fold it up, you're not going to have any resistance because that piece that folded over was above the score line for this one to fold up. So just be sure that the humped lines are on this piece. But don't do away with this piece because this is what you are then going to use to cut your hinges so you don't have any waste on your, you don't have to even use a scrap piece to do the rest of the entire project. Then what I did, because I wanted my pocket layering measurements to be exact. And when I say exact, like on this one, when this folded over and this folded up, I wanted an incremental measurement here that wasn't all wonky. I wanted them to be exact. And I wanted a deep enough pocket here that I could put a good size tag and then still put a full size tag in the front pocket as well. So what I did was, and this is just my template, I would recommend even making yourself a template guide on just a piece of copy paper. That way you can go back, look at it, and know exactly what you're dealing with. The first section that's going to fold over is going to be this one, and it's going to fold over on top of this layer. So what I did was I lightly traced using my ruler and just measured from the bottom corner here to the top corner here, gave myself that little guideline. Then I measured where I wanted this cutaway piece, which is what I've cut off here, to be, for the amount of the pattern paper that I wanted to show on the inside layer here. So what I did is I measured over 1 1/4 inches here, up 1 5/8 inches there, and then just drew me a pencil line, and that's what I did here. And then I actually put this in my trimmer and just lined that line up to cut it off, or you can cut it with scissors. But keep it, don't mess it up, because you're going to need it. Then I wanted my front piece that's going to fold up to also be an exact layer. So I came over 5/8 of an inch from the top and 7/8 of an inch at the bottom. And once you make your guide or your template for this, it'll be super easy to just keep making them. And they're really cool once you do them. And like I said, we used to make them smaller because we actually used a certain size tag as our base for these. And then we had to cut everything else. But I got to playing with a piece of cardstock. And I thought, if I cut that just right, I could make that basically in one piece. And you don't have to make the little hinge pieces I'm going to show you. I just like them because I like a little more width in the pockets, and so that's the reason for that. So this is this section here removed from this pocket. I'm about to knock my other stuff off the table. Let me open this up. This is this section removed from this pocket. Then when the front or the bottom one folds up, this is what you're going to remove from this section. Then what I did was I decided how I wanted my pattern paper layers to work. That one's going to go there. This piece is going to go here. So what I did was I did the same type measuring effect, only I came in 1/8 of an inch. So when this is cut off, and I'll just use my scissors to do this, and I'm just going to cut right on that line. That's the nice thing about a pencil line is you can cut on it, and then what doesn't cut away, you can always just erase it. So there's my layer that's going to go there. Then this one, I've done the same thing. I've drawn my pencil line on top of the patterned paper. So we'll see if I can follow it. And then there's going to be the layer for that pocket. And hang on to these if you want to use them to decorate the part that we can add to the back. Now, because when these pieces of pattern paper, they were some scraps that I had cut, and it was before I had put a new blade in my trimmer, so some of the edges were ragged from cutting them. So I decided just to go ahead and distress the edges and make all of them a little ragged. And since this piece is going to show on the top, I did all around that edge. But this one, you're only going to see some of the top part of it, so it doesn't really matter if all of it gets distressed, and this one part of this is the distressing from the paper trimmer, and then part was where I had distressed it just with the edge of the scissors, or you can use one of those distressing tools. Now, let me show you about the hinges, or the gussets, I guess I should say in this case, because we're not going to be opening anything. We're going to be closing stuff. What I did with the piece that's left over from that bottom corner that we cut off is I cut my little gusset pieces. And the way these are used, if you want to use them, you don't have to. You can just glue these edges completely down. But I want a little more girth in my pocket, so the gusset is going to get glued down. Then the pattern paper is going to be glued over the top of it so that it hides that. So when this flap folds over, I don't have to worry about a bottom gusset because this is going to fold up to create that. But then I've got a side on my pocket where things aren't just going to want to naturally fall out. And you don't have to put anything up here. That way you keep your whole width of your pocket at the top. So then this pattern paper would go there. But before you glue it down, this is your little gusset that you're going to use, because you have to make your gussets based on the size of the piece that you're going to fold up over it, not the height that you're looking at. But I want more girth on this one, so I cut my piece for that. And then when that all layers up, of course I'm not gluing it yet, so it's wanting to fall out of place. Then all of my pocket is now glued into place, and I've got the full width or gusset of the pocket instead of just gluing these edges down. But if that's what you want to do, that's perfectly fine. That is just, that's personal preference as far as that part goes. But let me take this out so that I can show you. Now, these two pieces that I cut off here, these two triangle shapes, that's what these were. All I've done is put them in my scoreboard and scored a 1/2 inch joining tab on each one. So when you flip this over, you can actually add these to the back side. You could make a double layered pocket on the back corner. You can use just one of them if you choose to, or what I think I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to use the larger one at the bottom, the smaller one at the top, and use it more as a tuck pocket where something could be tucked in from either direction, or if it was something that I wanted to be able to remove, I could still tuck it in there and then still gently remove it from the pocket. You could also turn this one this way at the bottom and still make a double pocket depending on your, choice of use. But your pattern papers that you trimmed off from these two pieces, you can then use to go back and add that same pattern paper layer to these little pockets. So you've got virtually no waste, and your project can become completely self-sustained. Now, if you didn't want pockets on the back side, this could then be attached into any journal page. Just glue it right onto the page, or you could turn this whole piece into a pocket of sorts by only gluing it down on the edges or making gussets to go around it and then attach it to a page, and you could still use the back side as a pocket. So there's lots of possibilities and so many things that you can do to make this more or even less than what it is by what you're looking at. Say you didn't want a double pocket here, but you like the idea of this, you could trim off a 1/2 inch hinge here that you could tuck under there, and then you've just done a half or a single pocket. Or you could use scraps to make a hinge to go here and not even have that, and you've still created a bottom so that your pieces don't fall through, but you had a little more girth in your pocket. So your possibilities are kind of endless as far as, you know, the functional ability, I'm not sure if that's a word, that you can get out of it. But this is what my basic layers are going to look like. Then I thought about maybe adding some kind of paper lace. So I cut one of my dies that does this long strip of lace trim, and I'm thinking that I don't know if I'm going to layer it on the underside like that or layer it on the top side. I haven't gotten that far into it, but I had thought that I might layer some lace onto the pocket, but you could just as easily do this with fabric lace. I was just going to keep everything paper in this one. And then I'm also going to do an embellishment. And this is just some of the pieces here. This flower, I'm going to do a layered flower and maybe some little, because see, there's some little viney stuff in the background of that paper. So I thought about some kind of little scrolly leaves, and then not sure what I'm going to do for the flower center yet, but I thought I would do, and I'm probably going to do it just on a video and upload it because it makes it a little easier than me trying to do it on live. And I'll show y'all how I'm going to color these and shape them, and then they'll be added to the front of the pocket. So, did that make some sense? And was it understandable? Maybe. And then once I get it, more of the pieces put together on it, then I'll come back and I'll show y'all, you know, the whole complete finished thing and what I've done to it. But that's just what I was going to do to it so far. And then I think on this one, instead of using traditional, like a brown ink, I use that gathered twigs a lot. I think I'm going to use the forest moss. I've been wanting to use a green to add some color and distress the edges. And I did a little scrap piece of the white cardstock earlier with this, and I really, really liked it. So I thought I would show a little bit of it on this, and you can get an idea of maybe using a different color ink than always just using brown to distress the edge with. And I'm thinking with how I'm going to do the flower, this look and this color is actually going to be pretty cool to use. So that's how the layering of that will look. And then once, of course, I get all the pieces layered, then I find a cohesiveness with the green ink. And then on the back side, because this, I didn't really have another piece of patterned paper that was big enough to cover this. I'm just using my scraps to cover the little triangle pockets that I'm going to use. So I am just going to do some ink dragging directly from the ink pad right across the back, and that's instantly going to create my background paper, so to speak, and will go perfectly with those corners once I attach the corners using the cardstock pieces that this pattern paper will be layered onto. So, what do y'all think about that? That's pretty cool, huh? Okay, I'm going to work on the rest of this so that I can either try to do the flowers as a live, or I'm going to record it and then upload them. But I just basically wanted to get y'all started on this part of it in case anybody wanted to work on the little double pocket and try one. And you can, I mean, there's lots of variations of this, you know, take what you see and do your own thing with it. And you might be surprised, you know, what else you can come up with. But that was just the idea that I had, and I've been toying with it for a couple of days, so I just wanted to show it. So I'm going to go for now and work on some more of this, and then I might come back later this afternoon after lunchtime and show y'all what I've either gotten to that point, or show you the finished piece and how I ended up putting it all together. See y'all later. Bye.